This show is brought to you by iRacing.com, where you can get 2 free months with the purchase of 1 for only $12 by going to iRacing.com/membership.
Welcome to This Week Inside Sim Racing Mid-March edition. I'm Darren Ganji here with
Jason Dunnington.
And today we're going to have a couple subjects to talk about that have been going on in sim racing the last few weeks, and then we're going to get to my iRace4Life recap. So first up, Rita Studios announced just last week that they are developing a car called the Formula Extreme. It's going to include a V6 1.6 liter turbo engine, 8-speed gearbox, energy recovery system, and DRS. And they also just did a, did you see the video, the Niels Husingfeld?
Yeah.
The V12 1995 F1 V12 car. Man, that thing sounds freaking wicked.
It does.
Looking forward to driving that. And these upcoming cars are going to be part of free DLC to Game Stock Car 2013. And supposed to be hitting in a couple weeks here by the end of March.
Nice, and free's always good. So
free's definitely good.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up with Kunos, guys, Assetto Corsa has a new build out. A lot of new features in that, including a sweet little car, the Pagani Huayra. It's
I wouldn't say that's a little car. That thing's a freaking big beast.
It's heavy. You can definitely tell it's heavy. It's got active spoilers on the back, so you guys got to check it out on the replays. It's awesome. Active, air brakes as it comes up.
Now, doesn't it pop up one side?
Yeah, it tweaks around, catch the corners and you'll have it lifts up. They did a really good job on it. It's awesome. And we got some footage of us running that puppy around. So they also got a new app for a track description. I haven't really played with that yet, but it looks cool. The damage off option, personally, I like it on, so it really didn't do much to me. But and some traction control tweaks, which again, I'm not interested in. But hey, it's a good bonus.
Yeah.
For those guys that need it, I suppose. All right, and with the aero fixes, the Exos, they had an excessive high-speed issue that was going on.
Yeah, they called it nose-up excessive top speed issue.
Yeah, I was at top speed. I never noticed it, but
I didn't either.
Anyway, though, with the Exos in our last run, that we did mention that it was a actual F1 car. It's not. The general public can actually go out and buy this car. It's supposed to have crazy downforce, from what I've read, that even higher than the
real
Formula
F1 cars. So. Yeah, I just honestly assumed that it was an F1 car, and when I had said that, an older F1 car. But yeah, I guess the general public can buy that thing.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
And we're gonna get a couple, by the way.
Yeah, take them out to the track for sure. Along with, they had a whole bunch of other little fixes and stuff. That'll all be in our description, and there's a link down in the bottom. So.
Yep. So next up, we're going to talk about the iRace4Life seminar that I went to. Actually, it's coming up on 2 weeks now, and go over some things that I saw there. Speaking of which, I did 4 live interviews from there, and speaking of links in our description, we're going to have that so you can check those out. But so speaking of those, which was your favorite of the live interviews that I did?
I loved them all. I really did. I get a kick out of all those guys. You started off with Zion Alfred, Ray Alfala, and David Cater. Tell me about those guys.
Zion, the guy that had this whole thing up. Honestly, every guy I interviewed, every guy I met there was really cool. And shout out to all the guys that I said hi, and thanks for coming up to me and introducing yourselves. But yeah, Scion, this is the 3rd year that they've done this, and he's basically the man with the plan as far as this whole thing goes. And it was just a really cool setup. And then Ray Alfala, 2-time iRacing NASCAR champion.
Almost 3.
Yeah.
Almost squeaked it out, but it got beat out.
By Tyler Hudson, who I interviewed back in December. But Ray was a really cool guy. Really, really good to meet him finally. And besides the interview, got to talk with him quite a bit behind the scenes and just about a variety of stuff. He actually did a couple classes that were really cool. And then David Cater, man, that dude is oval setup guru.
He is a master. I would love to sit and pick his brain. And there was something in the interview that I heard him talk about, how he can set the car up to how you drive, not to how I've always thought
he's like a crew chief.
Yeah, I always thought of oval tracks or any track, you set it up to the track. And then when he brought that, it totally...
Well, you do. You definitely set it up to the track, but then he was specifically saying, drive it the way you want.
Right.
Don't drive the setup and try to change the way you drive it to account for the setup. Tell me what it's doing and I will tweak the setup so that you can drive it better.
Yeah, like if you're going in deep, just let me know you're going in deep and he'll make sure not to kill you, and the car will go in deep. And or if you're pulling it out and you're really hard on the out, you just...
On the exit?
On the exit, yeah, you just let him know. And that's amazing. Just great.
He actually gets as big of a thrill setting the car up for, like he helped Tyler Hudson tweak his car to win that last championship. He didn't want to take any credit, but it definitely sounded like he was along the lines of a crew chief or part of that team that helped Tyler win that championship.
It's definitely a group effort, especially when you get up to that high of expectation. On when you're running the pros, you got to have a team. It's when you're going in by yourself, it's impossible.
There's no way I could do it.
No way. So then you caught up with Bernie Villers of Sim Experience, man. He seemed like an awesome dude, and he's just making this whole sim racing even better with what he's coming out with. So tell me about him.
So yeah, he brought the AccuForce wheel, him and Pat Dotson. Pat Dotson's also part of Sim Experience. Pat created the G seat, the GS4, and then they kind of merged forces, and now Pat is part of Sim Experience. But Pat was there as well, and so they brought the AccuForce wheel that a lot of guys, that was like the biggest question that I was getting, how's that AccuForce wheel, when I first got there. And I'm like, well, I think Bernie's coming and maybe you'll be able to check it out. So I think about 10 different guys got to run it. And
you've already got to run it before though, right?
Yeah, we did the whole piece on it back in November. A lot of guys were really impressed by it. Like David Ankeny, as a matter of fact, I guess he ran his fastest lap ever at Texas with that wheel. So yeah, it was great to see him again, catch up with those guys, and then great to see some of the reactions to the AccuForce.
Right. Good things coming from Sim Experience for sure.
Yep.
The next day, the second day, you caught up with Chris Considine, if I pronounce that right,
yep,
and Tom Hackey, the Heath Ledger guy that used to play here.
Yeah, I guess some people think he looks like Heath Ledger. Yeah, It's great to catch up with those guys as well. I haven't seen Tom or Chris in years. Yeah, Chris is the CEO and founder of CXC Simulations, and they were there doing a class on how to set up or how to calibrate your monitors, color calibrate your monitors, and also check for latency. So that was really cool. And speaking of those guys, all of those guys were making themselves available to anybody that wanted help, which was really cool. Speaking of really cool, this whole thing is really cool, and if you have a chance to go next year, it may be kind of difficult because it's midweek, because it starts Wednesday night and goes through Friday. So I'd imagine that a lot of people have a problem making that because of work schedules.
Right.
But if you guys can make it next year, I plan on being there.
I'm definitely going to do whatever I can to be there.
Maybe bring Jason along. But one of the really cool things was, Chris Considine, Michael Main, who we're going to talk about in a minute, Tom Hackey, Ray Alfalla, Wyatt Gooden. These guys were all making themselves available to any sim racer that wanted help with either car setups, dialing in their monitors. Chris one of the first things he was doing was going, hey man, you want us to color calibrate your monitors? So
right on.
That was really cool.
Yeah. Now with Michael Main too, I heard that he has a new pedal set coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, he's got his new pedals coming out, and he said he had actually had a brochure that said early this year that they were going to be ready. He's talking end of April, early May. He says he's got 1,500 people on the waiting list.
Right.
Which that's a lot of pedals.
Right. And nobody's paid yet.
No,
correct?
he's not doing pre-orders, which
is a very awesome thing to do.
I don't like pre-orders because a lot of people have, Todd Cannon burned a lot of people in sim racing, and a lot of sim racers are on tight budgets, and hearing what that guy did, that guy is a total sleazeball.
Really?
Yeah, he basically, Ray Alfalla got ripped off.
Oh.
A lot of guys got ripped off by that guy who was taking pre-orders and then just disappeared. So I like, not that Michael Main's going to do that. I mean,
Michael's been in here too long.
He's been around for a long time, and he's going to be around for a long time. And that's just not the type of businessman he is anyway. So hearing that he's not taking pre-orders is a great thing. I don't agree with this whole pre-order thing at all. I don't like it.
Well, I think it puts too much pressure on the development. And
it does. And it does, and it could force them to rush things out, or sim racers could get burned.
Right.
So you hear that, sim racers, don't pre-order things. Wait till the thing comes out. You're probably better off waiting until, well, in this case, Michael Main is going through, doing a lot of testing.
Right.
So he talked about price point, $899 for the base set, 3-pedal set with a load cell, an extra $499 for a hydraulic set, $399 if you do a DIY version of that, and then he's going to have brackets to install it in Obutto Revolutions and stuff like that. So going to be really cool and we're going to get a set. So as soon as he's talked about the first 10 are going to be available pretty soon, and we're getting one of those. So
excellent. Can't wait to try that out.
Yeah.
Now in your fourth one, you jumped in with Otto Zabini.
Yep.
Main marketer guy for iRacing. Seemed like a super awesome dude, and he had quite loose lips. So yeah, share with that.
He did. He talked about some upcoming content. They're hoping that the BMW GT3 car is going to be available along with Circuit of the Americas in the next upcoming build, which should be coming fairly soon. End of March, early April, I would think, because they're 4 builds a year, so that build's right around the corner. Also talked about driver swaps, which I've been campaigning for years.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, I think I mentioned this in our interview, that driver swaps and endurance racing is probably my favorite form of sim racing, and I haven't been able to do it in a long time. So maybe me and you, William Marsh, get a little inside sim racing. John Sable, get a little inside sim racing team together and
go out and kick some butt.
Yeah, run some 12-hour endurance races.
That would be awesome. Speaking of, now for the IndyCar guys, he also mentioned that the new DW12 is going to be hopefully available, I hope not just a couple days before the Indy 500, but...
Yeah, and he said the oval version only.
Yeah.
They're hoping to have available for the Indy 500, which they've done annually in May, and that's one of the events that I actually love running, so I plan on running. You plan on running?
Yo, I'm going to run, definitely.
Sweet.
I love running the Indy ovals.
And that's maybe we can team up and, talking about setups.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we can get somebody to help us with a setup, and then we can all maybe team up together. And
then David, how good are you on the Indy cars? Have you messed with that on the ovals? I know with the wings you had a problem, but what about the rest of the setup?
Yeah, I don't think he's much on the IndyCar side. He's mainly focused on, if we want some NASCAR setups,
then we're all
yeah. David David be the man to talk to about that.
For sure.
So I mentioned besides the interviews, there was classes going on throughout the seminar. Besides the classes, there's tournament racing going on. Lots of camaraderie and meeting sim racers that you've never met before. So,
I'd have been all over those tournaments, man.
Have you ever met any of the sim racers besides me in person?
You're the only one. The only one that's anywhere close to.
Yeah, it's really cool to meet sim racers for the first time in person and talk shop. And a lot of times, I know this was going on at the seminar, maybe not this year, but guys that have had rivalries or maybe some heated discussions in the past, when you meet somebody in person, that just is thrown out the window, and you realize that it's a real person that you're having these rivalries or issues with, and that we're just a bunch of normal guys, a bunch of sim racing geeks, to be honest.
Right, and then you get to talk in real life instead of the extra ego that you have over when you can't punch the dude or the dude can't punch you back. At least that's really cool.
So yes, yeah, I agree. So back to the classes. I'm hoping to have as many of those up really soon. They're sending me a hard drive, the audio video team, with a bunch of those classes. Set up an oval car, David Cater. Ray Alfala did one on racecraft, on ovals. Wyatt Gooden did one in the roof Porsche on racecraft. I don't think there was really a setup one on that. Speaking of IndyCar, not sure the guy's name, but there was a full IndyCar class on how to set up the Dallara.
Nice.
So lots of really cool stuff. Michael Main did one on how to tune your PC. Chris Constantine and Tom Hackey did one on setting up, color calibrating your monitors. So
excellent.
So yeah, it was really cool. So back to the tournaments. Lots of prizes.
Yeah, Michael Main again. I mean, he's a huge supporter of all the sim racing. He always throws something out on iRacing that you can win just for participating. Besides,
you won.
I won for winning. Yeah, so I mean, guys in there that threw.
It had prizes.
Yeah.
Getting a little off track there.
Totally.
That's okay. Yeah, Derek Spear put up some button boxes. Logitech had some headsets and G27s that were given away. iRacing was giving away credits.
Nice.
And the podium finishers for just about, I think for every tournament race, won something. And then, speaking of Michael Main.
Yeah.
This was for a drawing, actually, and you had to participate in some of the seminars that were going on outside of the iRace4Life thing. And if you did, you got just a ticket, and they were put into a drawing to win a full rig worth $3,500. And that rig included 3 24-inch monitors, an Albedo Revolution, and the PC. The only thing that was missing was a wheel and pedal set.
Well, I think that would be quite a good option too. That way you can choose your own wheel and pedal set to be thrown on that sucker. But
I agree.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so the winner of that was Gabriel Solis. As a matter of fact, let's play his reaction right now.
Oh, okay.
0, 2, bam! Okay.
Now we did.
And it's verified. Last 62900 verified.
Gabriel, man, first of all, it's great to meet you. And second of all, that must be a pretty sweet rig. And hopefully you've got it by now. And man, congratulations. You looked like one happy camper.
Yeah. Congrats, Gabriel. Way to go, dude. I can't wait to see you on the track, man. Next up, though, you had Landon Harrison with, how old was that Microsoft Sidewinder? And pedals, mind you.
I don't know. That thing was at least 10 plus years old. And
it's crazy.
It was, and it was amazing. First of all, Landon was a great guy. Great to meet him. And actually, what was kind of funny is he was shy in person. And he told me, when I talked to him about doing the interview, he's like, GT Academy, they kind of trained him to be comfortable in those interview situations, because he's also a 3-time national finalist in GT Academy, running Gran Turismo.
With a gamepad, mind you. He wasn't even using that Microsoft Sidewinder.
Which, yeah, you can't use on a PS3. No. But another cool thing was that somebody at the show is getting him a T500.
Nice.
Wheel and pedal set. So, going to be interesting to hear if he transitioned off of that Sidewinder in the NASCAR. He's in the top NASCAR series, the Peak Antifreeze series on iRacing.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see if he transitions to that T500. Landon, reach out to me, man. I've got you. We've added each other on Facebook. So let me know when you get that T500 and how you transition to it, because I'd honestly like to do a follow-up here on the show. Maybe send us some pictures of you running that T500. But he's also going to have the T500 to run in the next GT Academy.
Excellent. Sweet.
So he'll be able to practice and I think be a little more prepared when he gets to that national final and get, I think it's top 16 is what goes to the, or 32 or something in the national final. But then to get to the final, you need to make the top 12 or something like that. Yeah. So good luck, Landon. Hopefully you do well in the Peak Antifreeze series and in GT Academy this year.
And remember, if you don't like that wheel right away, you got to stick with it. It's that comfortability factor, man. You'll get comfortable with it. It just takes a little bit of time. You're adaptable. I know it, obviously, because you're running a Microsoft Sidewinder for this long.
And speaking of which, him being comfortable, Landon was so comfortable that I have some shots of him under caution during one of the tournament races, eating his lunch. And then he was so comfortable, the very last tournament race, they were running the roof Porsche, and I kind of wish I would have jumped in. I didn't want to steal anybody's rig, because I didn't have my own rig there.
Right.
But they ran the roof Porsche at Daytona Road Course. And Landon and Chris Considine, who we were talking about earlier, Chris Considine was in Robert DeGroff's rig, which was just sick.
Yeah.
And the guy's got like 6 transducers hooked up to the seat.
Well,
Bernie Villers called it a butt number.
Butt number. Well, and didn't he have an amp that was as big as a mid-sized tower?
Yeah,
I mean,
he did.
Holy crap.
Really cool setup. Speaking of setups, there was a lot of really cool setups there. majority of people just running at a table with the
Yeah.
wheel and pedal, brought their computers. And it was just really cool to see the variety of setups that were brought to the show. And I actually talked to Scion about maybe next year us trying to get some rigs and setups just for guys that didn't bring their setups. And there was a lot of guys that were at the general, it was called a men's summit, that were cruising through there and say, hey, can I try this? And I got asked by at least 10 different people, can I try this? And I'm like, this isn't my setup. This is somebody's personal setup. So anyway, really cool to see all the different setups. But so back to the last race, Chris Considine, I got some footage of this. Chris Considine and Landon Harrison. Landon with his Sidewinder
Right.
at this table, single monitor,
Running road course now.
running a road course, and giving Chris Considine a run for his money. And Chris was making excuses of, I haven't raced in 2 years. And
Right.
Chris, I'm sorry, dude. That excuse didn't fly considering you were racing against a dude with a Sidewinder
Right.
and Sidewinder pedals.
Yes, and we already know you're fast. You were running up in the front, so there's no excuses. You lost. Just take it with a humble pie, man.
And Chris actually, they were exchanging positions back and forth, and then Chris ended up, I think it was coming out of turn 1. Anyway, he just kind of lost the handle a little bit, smacked the wall, and then the car, I think he took on a little damage. And I got to say, Chris, you didn't need to make excuses, dude, because you're fast, okay? I've run laps against you. Him and I worked for CXC a long time ago, and we would do some hot lap stuff, and it was hard to keep up with him. So, Chris, you don't need to make excuses, dude. Just do your best.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up. I'd just like to thank Scion again for having me at the iRace4Life seminar. Thank all the guys. I think I did 11 different interviews.
Yeah.
And thanks to all the guys that took the time to jump in the interview booth. Brian Schoenberg, Ray Alfala, Landon Harrison, David Ankeny, who runs thercrl.com. Check out their website. It's a league that runs mainly NASCAR stuff.
Sweet.
Maybe we'll join up those guys. And
I've been wanting to get back into some NASCAR ovals.
I actually have been too. We just did a review, speaking of which, in NASCAR 14. That's coming soon. And
I feel slower because of it.
But it kind of got me back in the NASCAR bug and wanting to run some ovals. Maybe back to the show. Bernie Villers, Chris Considine, Tom Hackey, Michael Main. And I'm sorry if I'm forgetting anybody. David Cater. Wyatt Gooden was there again. I mentioned him. I wanted to get him in the interview booth, but it seemed like every time I was doing it, he was not available.
Yeah.
So it was great meeting you, Wyatt, if you're watching this. So again, that's going to wrap it up. Coming soon, we got NASCAR 14, just mentioned that. Also, semi-in-depth, kind of like what we did with Assetto Corsa on R Factor 2. I'm taking some heat for not covering R Factor 2. And I just want to say really quick, I'm going to say it here on the show. The reason why I have not covered R Factor 2 is because Frankenrig back there was running, I was running dual 580s, 580 GTX cards in SLI. And I had a really hard time getting that thing to run decently on my system. And, people were saying, you got I got an AMD 6-core running at 3.5 gigahertz, 16 gigs of Corsair Vengeance RAM that runs iRacing and Assetto Corsa.
Everything we can throw at it for the most part.
Just fine. So I've now got a 780 GTX
TI, bad boy.
Yeah, that, I'm sorry, if it doesn't run well with that, it's not my problem.
No.
So we're going to do a piece on R Factor 2 coming up here soon. Also got a quick release deal that we're going to do on the G27.
On my G27.
Yep,
Yes.
with the Sim Raceway SRW1 F1 rim that will attach to that. And that's going to wrap it up. For Jason Dunnington, I'm Darren Ganji. Hopefully you've enjoyed the show. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, come to our website, isrtv.com, join us in our forums, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, we'll see you on the track.